Welcome to your next tape of the Joe Verde training program, How to Close More Sales. This program was designed by Joe to help you close more sales, overcome your customers' objections, stay off price on the lot, and hold gross. There is also homework and a quick quiz for you to fill out at the completion of each tape in this series. And now, let's begin. Here's Joe.
You ready to figure out how to get some more commitments? It's time. We've got one commitment. We've spent 90 minutes out here with a customer, and now we have a commitment. What we'd like to do is get a few more. A couple things I wanted to bring up, too, about some of the things we've talked about on the tape. You've heard me use the close, Bob, you're going to register it in your name or her name. And I've used that again and again and again. It's like when you say, welcome to the dealership, welcome to ABC Motors, my name's Joe, and you're, who's the lucky one who gets a car, you or somebody else? If you use those techniques every day, and you practice, drill, and rehearse those, sometimes you get to thinking, well, gosh, I keep saying the same thing, I ought to change it. You don't change what works. You may have said, who's the lucky one who gets a car, you or somebody else, 5,000 times. How many times has this customer heard it? Just once. And they'll respond like every customer does when they hear it the first time. Oh, great, I don't know if we're lucky, or whatever they do. It's like welcome. You'll always get a positive response. Even though you say it every time, keep saying it. If you say, can I help, you're going to get a negative response. Don't go back to that one just because it's different. We don't need to do things different unless they're better. And if I could use the same script every day with every customer, I would probably tire of saying the same words. But if one script worked and got me a sale every day, then that would be the only script I'd use. Remember, the customer only hears it once. What we've done is we've gone through the selling process. We've covered a lot on this tape series. We talked briefly at the very beginning about you getting more organized. We talked about you setting some goals. We talked about skill development. I hope you see that other things affect the close and not just closing and handling objections. Your attitude affects the close, your presentation, your demonstration, building rapport, investigating. Everything you do and everything you say out here has an effect and makes the close easier or tougher. We want to make it as easy as we can. We've gotten one close now, and one of the biggest mistakes that salespeople make is they don't get a good, solid commitment. You hear it on the lot out there. I refer to it as we use our whiny voice when we ask for the order. Bob, what do you think? Would you want to go see how this works out? That's not a close. That's fear of asking a closing question. Nothing bad happens when you ask for the order. You have to be bold. You have to ask with enthusiasm, confidence. Bob, let's go ahead and wrap this thing up and get you out of here so you can start enjoying it. If he says, what, are you crazy? Nothing bad happens. What, are you crazy? No, it just seems like you do like the car, don't you? And you go back into another technique. You guys like the car, don't you? Yeah, and it's the right color and equipment. Yeah, sounds like, I don't know, it sounds crazy to me too, I guess, but it sounds like you guys like the car, don't you? Yeah. Well, what's holding you back? And close. Again, nothing bad happens. But now we have a commitment. We went through all this. Bob finally said, put it in her name. Or we got back off the demonstration drive and we said, Bob, go ahead and park it in the soul line. He parked it in the soul line. We have a commitment. Now, I'm not sure of your procedure in the dealership, your negotiation process. That's on a whole other 12-tape set. That's another in-depth closing and objections and everything else. You use a lot of the same things we've learned, but it is different, and every dealership does it differently. And I'm not sure of your negotiation process or your paperwork process. But regardless how you do it, would you be better off if you had that many more commitments before you started doing the paperwork negotiating? Is the sale over just because you have a commitment? No, there's still a lot left to do. And you have a lot of other objections that are going to come up. You're going to have to continue closing throughout your negotiation or even the paperwork. And if some of you are value-priced, one-price cars, one-price dealerships, you may not technically be negotiating the price, but you're negotiating a win-win. You're negotiating feel good. And if you can't get enough commitments, you may have a value-priced car. It may be the cheapest car in town, but if you don't close, the customer's still going to say, I'll think it over and get back to you. So having cheap cars is not just the way to sell. Smiling and having cheap cars won't answer it all for you. What we've got to do is close. We have to get commitments. So I personally want as many commitments as I can get out here. So what I want to talk to you about are some easy ways to get more commitments. It's a piece of cake. Bob pulled on the soul line. Technically, he said, I'll take it. Now, again, with the soul line closed, we need to ask another closing question. I want to get as many of these as I can. I call this the transition from outside to inside. It's a 7-step transition. There's things you should do from the time you get a yes until you go in here and do your paperwork, whatever your paperwork is, your credit app, your write-up, your worksheet, your appraisal slip, whatever else you're going to do in there. I want as many commitments as I can before I sit down in here to do this paperwork. So let's look at a step-by-step process, and starts on page 86. And again, the first step, and you don't go in to negotiate, you don't go in to do the paperwork until you have a commitment, unless your manager says he wants you to, and then of course you do, because I don't sign your paychecks. And again, another reminder, if I say something on this tape series that's against dealership policy, check with your managers. And speaking of managers, I hope all the managers have been going through this. You guys and ladies out there, I hope you've been doing your homework. I hope you've been role-playing these things as we go. I hope you've been filling out your workbook. We all need to learn how to do this. You're going to be involved in sales. It would help if you had the same techniques we all have. It'd help if we were all role-playing out here. Before you go inside, number one, you must have a commitment. There's no way that I'm going to sit inside and fiddle with figures without a commitment, unless I'm using that terrible price close, that 2% of the time, 1% of the time close that we said is the worst close you ever want to use. In that case, I would, but I'm doing that with a purpose. But I know that that's the worst close. I know it's going to cost me money. I know it's going to kink the negotiation. I know it's filled with problems. And the only reason I would use it is because there isn't anything else to try. So I want to get some other commitments so that I can make this close easier. Page 87. Let me say something on page 86 before we turn off of it. There, right under number one, before it says example, when you ask for a commitment, try to understand that if their response isn't yes, it's no. If I say, Bob, how do you want it registered? In your name or Betty's name? If he says, well, you know, we'd consider it. What can you guys do? That's not a yes. We still need to get a yes. Bob, when you say what can we do, are you talking about the price or payments? Well, I'm talking about the payments. Sounds like you just want to make sure it fits your budget, am I right? Yeah. And Bob, assuming it fits your budget, would there be anything else holding you back? He says, no. Great, come in and let's do the paperwork. No, I didn't say I was going to buy it. Well, then we don't go inside to do the paperwork. Maybe means no. Possibly means no. I'll think about it means no. If you can't get a commitment, I'm personally, now your managers may want you to do something else, I'm not going to sit in there and fiddle with figures and give you shopping figures. We didn't cover it. Are you aware that 96% of the people you give a price to are going to go shop it? That's a lot. Those are bad odds. If I give you a price, I got a 96% chance I'll never see you again. Thanks, but no thanks. I'd rather play the odds the other way. I'd rather not go inside without a commitment. And, okay, the objection that comes up when I say that is, well, what do you do if the guy's going to leave and says he's not coming back if you don't give him a price? I need to, without lowballing him, I need to handle that. And he says, let's say we've done some value building, we built some rapport, we tried to close, and he says, Joe, I need to go shop 3 places. I'm going to shop and find the best price. Well, Bob, if you're serious about shopping and finding the best price, go to the other 2, come on back with a legitimate offer, and we'll do our best to beat the deal. And if we can't, I'll buy you guys at least a cup of coffee or lunch or a tank of gas, whatever you need to do. If he said, no, I'm not coming back, gee, it'd be a shame, because I guarantee you will beat any legitimate offer. Now, you also need to clarify what legitimate is. Legitimate. Here in California, if you write on the back of a business card the price, the ID number, and you sign it, you've just done a legal and binding contract. So out here, nobody's crazy enough to sign the back of their business card and write a price on it, or at least I hope you're not. So out here, I qualify legitimate. When I say, Bob, before you spend any money, make sure you got a legitimate offer and we'll beat it. Now, Bob, to figure out what legitimate is, so you know where these guys are funning you, just pulling your leg, or really offering you something, ask the salesperson to write it down on the back of his business card, have him write the ID number down so you can verify the car, and ask him to write the price and ask him to sign it. Better yet, have his manager sign it. Now, Bob, when you ask them to do this, if you feel any hesitation, realize that they were pulling your leg. And come on back down. Don't be embarrassed. It happens every single day. And then we'll sit down and, but let me ask you a question. Before you even do all that, go through all that trouble and shopping all these places, how much do you expect to save? What are we talking, $50, $100? Well, I saw down there, and then you go into the advertising. You understand advertising, don't you? And then you take it step by step. You don't dismiss them. You don't give just because they sound like they got an objection you can't handle. Go back to something you can handle. Switch it around to something that you're familiar with. And take it step by step. But remember, possibly means no. And would think about it means no. Number 2, one of the other things I like to do out on the lot, and you may already have you probably have an appraisal slip that your manager wants you to use. It's a formal sheet of paper. You normally go inside, get it, come back out with or without your customer and fill out the appraisal slip. I want to get extra commitments while I'm out there. So even though we have a separate appraisal slip inside, I pull out a business card, pull out my pen, and I start jotting down things about the trade. Now, one of the things I do is say, Bob, lean in there and get me the exact miles on the car. Bob sticks his head in the window and reads off 79,112.2 miles. What did he just agree to do? Was that not an action close? So now I've got a commitment. Oh, that was kind of nice, kind of easy. As I'm taking down this information, Betty, do me a favor and grab your pink slip and your registration out of the glove box. Betty grabs the pink slip and the registration out of the glove box. And I'm jotting all this down and say, Bob, I don't have my glasses on. Can you read that tag number to me? It's real important that I fill that out. And he reads me the tag number. Another little minor commitment. So I can continue to get minor commitments. And I'm going to gather the trade information. Because I'm gathering it, their mental thoughts that are going through their mind is, Betty, we're getting rid of our car. Another thing I'm going to ask Bob to do. Say, Bob, do me a favor and pull your keys off the key ring. Let me have your trunk key and your ignition key. When he takes those keys off the ring and hands them to me, what did he agree to do? He's releasing his car. He's selling us his car. He's making this mental decision, step by step by step. I hope you see that this is better than just having that one little your name or her name. Number three there on the bottom of the page. Get them involved with some of these action closes we're talking about. Get them involved. Get them doing things for you. Bob, how many miles are on it? Betty, do me a favor, grab the pink slip. Bob, take your keys off the key ring. Page 88, and a lot of you guys do this, and a lot of you have never thought about it. This is one of the most fun things. You know, selling is supposed to be fun. You're supposed to lighten up. You're supposed to have a good time. And I don't mean screw around when I say have a good time, but I mean you're supposed to lighten up. You got to put some enthusiasm back in this. We used to call it Playhouse 90. You want to have fun selling. Number 4 is a silent walk around. A silent walk around. Customer think their car is worth more than it is? You're right. This silent walk around is to help them devalue their car in their mind. They come in, they saw an ad in the paper for $4,500 for a car like theirs. They figure theirs is nicer and it ought to be worth $55,000. They pull these numbers out of the air. They're thinking it's worth more than it is. We need to somehow devalue the car, but we don't want to knock their car. Remember, knocking trades is bad luck. So we don't want to say, shh, car's junk, it's not worth that. That'll get you the wrong reaction. So we use a silent walk around. And I really like to do it while the customer's standing there with me. Now, we talked about communication. Here's where we're going to use body language, tone, and inflection. And a silent walk around just means you walk around the car, you got your business card or your 3x5 card in your hand, and you're just going to walk around it and do a little silent evaluation. You look down the left side of the car, and you look down there, and Bob and Betty are standing over there. They know you're looking at their car. They know they want $5,500 for it. They really know it's not worth it. But you look down the side, you see that little ripple down there, and you just, on your sheet of paper, it doesn't matter what you write down, you just write something down and go, And Bob and Betty are standing over there, and Betty says, Bob, he saw that dent in the left door. And you don't say anything. You walk around the other side, and you go, And you do this in body language again. You look at the vinyl top. You touch the hole that's in the vinyl top. You don't say, whoa, there's a hole in the vinyl top. And you just go, You take your depth gauge, your pin, and you stick it in that right rear tire and all the treads, and you hold it up and you go, You walk over to the seat that's got the hole in it. You don't say, whoa, a hole in your seat. You just go over and touch it. And you go, And every time you go, and write something down, in their mind they're saying, oh, heck, he found that too. Bob, we may not get $5,500 for this thing. If you can't do that with them standing there, the other thing I like to do is I take them inside, set them in the office, and I park the car where they can see me. And I still get to do my silent walk around. Doesn't do you much good to go, because they can't hear you. And you have to exaggerate your body language, but you do the same thing. You go over and lean down the side. They're sitting over there in the office watching you. If your manager's out there, same thing. And you look at the car and you go, You just exaggerate the body language a little bit. You go, Look down the other side. You touch the seat, touch the vinyl top. You still do the same things. And every time you touch it, and every time you jot something down, they devalue the trade in their mind before you ever get to a negotiation. Another thing you want to do on your silent walk around, 4 down there, and it says also ask, number 1, have you done anything in the last 12 months to increase the value of your car? Now, people want as much for their car as they can get, and they're trying to justify in their mind this amount they're asking for. So they're going to blurt out all kinds of things that they would like to have. They say, oh, yeah, shoot, We put tires on it just about a year ago. I changed the battery. I had that transmission service not too long ago. Oh yeah, we spent $1,800 on this thing in the last 12 months. Great. Now they're telling you that to make it worth more. In the negotiation later, we would use that against them. We would call that a maintenance clause. Remember we talked about fit it in their budget? Well, inside in a maintenance clause, we would get down and we're $50 apart. Bob says, well, I just can't afford the extra 50. And you would use a maintenance clause. He said, Bob, if I could find you an extra $75 or $100 in your budget, could we go ahead and then justify that extra 50 we need? And he said, gosh, if you can find $100 in my budget, I'll buy this car. And then you sit there and say, Bob, it just dawned on me. You know, when we were out there before, you told me you spent $1,800 on your car. Gosh, that's $150 a month. And I know you're a meticulous kind of guy and take care of your cars, but you won't be able to spend that kind of money on this car. You can't. It's brand new. Looks like we got, what, about $150 a month. Congratulations. How'd you guys want it registered, in your name or her name? And you set up a maintenance clause with that question. Also ask, did you get the extended warranty when you got it? Now, this helps you two ways. It helps set up finance. If they say, oh, yeah, we got the warranty. That helps finance sell the next one. If they say, no, we didn't, just go, that's too bad. You know, most people, when they look at a car out here, pretty much demand an extended warranty of some sort, and that might have been transferable. Oh, well, and you just jot that down, too. Number 5, close again and make them comfortable. The next thing I do is say, you guys come on inside. Can I get you a cup of coffee? You want some cold to drink while we wrap this up? Give me something cold to drink. And Bob, for our records, what's the correct spelling of your last name? S-M-I-T-H. You guys go ahead and sit down. And when you set them down, another thing I like to do is I like to have them start signing something as soon as possible. As soon as you set them down, have them sign something. I get them in there and I say, let me grab you a cup of coffee, and we go to the coffee machine together. I say, you guys go ahead and sit down for a second. Now, out here we have a DMV packet. There's about 15 pages you got to sign. And I use that. Remember, I got commitment, 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 commitment. They know what they're setting in there for. And I pull out that DMV packet and I slide it over. Say, this is going to take you the longest. You guys go ahead and start signing these. So I need full, middle, and last name on here. Full, first, middle, and last name. And I'll be back in a second. And you walk away. If there's going to be a no, you'll get it right now. If there's any hesitation, you'll get it right now. If they start signing it, you just got another and another and another. Every time they sign their name, they're releasing their car, releasing their car, releasing their car. And we haven't negotiated yet. We haven't done any paperwork yet. Commitment after commitment after commitment. The other thing I like to do, number 6, remember the kid in the ball? He's been sitting there with it all day, hadn't touched it? And somebody comes up and wants to play with it. What's he wanted worse than anything he's ever wanted in his life now? He wants that ball because you're about to take it away. Let's do a takeaway here. Number 6, set them down and create some doubt. Set them down and create some doubt. Now, when I set them down, I say, I'm going to go grab some paperwork here real quick. And I'm going to make sure the car is still available. And I'm going to make sure the car is still available. What would be the response after making all these commitments, starting to sign all this stuff? They're going, well, what do you mean? Car's still available. Gosh, there's 10 of us out here, and this is the most popular color, and I did see somebody with it before, but I'll do my best. Don't worry. Now we've created some doubt. Now they want it more than they did want it, because now we started to take it away a little bit. It says get 3 more commitments. Have them take their keys off if you haven't done that already. Have them start signing something, and you want to take their registration, their title, their keys with you to the sales office now. And I make a detour to the sales office to pick up these pieces of paper. I don't keep them on my desk. I want to go into the sales office to get a starting figure on what their trade's going to be worth from my manager. And I also want to drop their keys and their registration and their title off in there. I want them to feel like they've traded cars. I want things to start disappearing here. I want the action closes to start working for me. Number 7, I get the paperwork from the sales office. Number 7, get the paperwork from the sales office. I hope you see how that this helps you before you start your paperwork. And I made the statement before, and it generally generates a question when I don't finish talking about it. I made the statement before, I always do my credit out before I do my write-up, or a worksheet, or whatever you guys use. I have them, when you come back in, when I come back after step number 7 with my paperwork, I got a credit app, I got a write-up, and I got an appraisal slip. I'll fill out this thing first, technically, and I've got all the information on it. Then I pull out my credit app. And I start gathering information, and I say, Bob, what street do you guys live on? And he said, well, we live at 123 Oak Street. Now remember, I didn't take any shortcuts out here. I built value. I got 45 yeses. I closed. I overcame their objections. I got all these commitments. When we finally sat down in here, I got a committed customer. They'll still give you some reflex objections when you pull out a credit app. I pull out my credit app, though, or my customer statement, and I start asking questions. What street do you live on? Now, they'll still give you some reflex objections. They typically say, Joe, what are you doing? I'm just jotting down some basic information. And was that here in Tustin? Yeah, and what's your zip code? Well, it's 92806, but shouldn't we find out what my trade's worth? Oh, yeah, Bob, we'll get to that in a second. My manager's appraising another car now anyway. And how long have you been at Rockwell? Well, I've been there 7 years. And what's your income? Well, I make $6,000 a month. But, you know, if the payment's too high on this thing, I'm not going to take it. I got some good news for you. If the payment's too high, the bank won't let you. And Betty, did you work? And we keep asking questions. Persistence eliminates resistance. These are minor reflex objections. But why would I want to go through this before I get to the negotiation or to the write-up or the worksheet? Correct me if I'm wrong, but every answer they give me, isn't that another one of these minor commitments? Where do you work? How much money do you make? How much do you owe on your car? How much is in the bank? Who's your friends? Who's your neighbors? How long you been there? Every response off that credit app must have, what, 30 blanks on it? There's 30 more little commitments. Wouldn't you like to have big commitments and then a whole bunch of little commitments before you get into this and start actually doing your write-up and start negotiating? When I start negotiating, I want to negotiate with a solidly closed, committed customer. I don't want to go in there with this little mealy-mouthed, well, what do you think? You want to see how it works out? I'm not going to go in there and go from, do you want to see how it works out, straight to a write-up. I want major commitments and a lot of minor commitments. And I hope that you see that if you do this, when you finally get to this sheet of paper, it'll be a lot easier for you to control, regardless of what system you use. So just another tip, I always try to do my credit app first. I want as many commitments as I can. Covered a lot of stuff to cover. How many of you like that silent walk around? How many of you do it? Some of you do it, some of you used to do it. Boy, it's one of the most effective things you can do because you're going to start getting objections on the trade and everything else as you do your write-up and your worksheet there. In these tapes, again, we've covered everything from building value to closing to objections to finding the objections to handling the objections to the 5 methods on objections. Quick quiz, what are the 5 methods? Bypass things you don't want to talk about. Okay, you get an objection, you're a little unclear. What do you need to do? Clarify it. You get an objection, they say price. What would you like to do with price? Rephrase it down to budget. Finally get it down to budget, what do you need to do? So they don't come up with any more objections. Isolate it. Get it down to isolate it and then close on it with whatever method you're going to use. These yes questions, the either-or questions, the involvement questions, sharp angle questions, assumptive statements, questions, and closes. Those 10 techniques are the most important things we've talked about. And I hope you heard as we go through these, and I hope you go back and read and reread and reread your workbook. You don't listen to this tape one time and learn and develop skills from it. You gain information from it each time you watch it. The more you watch it, the more information you'll gain. It's like in our live classes. We have people that attend classes on a regular basis, same class. And every time they come back, they say, whoa, I learned so much more this time. Same workbook, same words. If you listen to this and you listen and you took notes, you got about 20% of this. That means 80% of it hadn't come out yet. You need to go back and constantly review this. We're in the highest paying profession. There's not a reason in the world that you don't do 30 minutes to an hour a day of improvement, skill improvement, practice, drill, and rehearse this stuff. You can do it over lunch. You can do it on your way to work. You got a 20-minute drive to work. 20 minutes each way, back and forth, just on work days is about 240, 250 hours a year of practice you could get, of education you could get on how to sell, how to close, how to overcome objections, how to stay off price, how to follow up. We've got some homework. And again, managers, I hope that you don't ask if people would like to do their homework. I hope that you make people do their homework, and you need to do it too. You need to do it with them so that we can all sit here and role play these things. Let's take those negative huddles out on the lot and turn them into positive sales meetings. Let's quit talking about the weather and ball games and everything else. And let's talk about how we can close the sale. Let's role play a tough customer. Let's role play an easy customer. Let's role play how to stay off price. Let's role play a 5-question close. Let's role play a summary close. Let's role play assumptive statements, questions, and closes. Let's get really good at this stuff. You know, customers buy cars every, 2 or 3 years? And we get an opportunity to sell cars 3 or 4 times a day. Who should be better at this, the buyer or the seller? You know, we should be, but if you look at our closing ratios, we close 20% of the people. That means we don't close 80% of the people. That means that 80% of the time, they do a better job of not buying than we do of selling. And that don't make sense. We're going to go through your homework here real quick, and it's in your workbook, but some of the most important things I want to talk to you about, as we went through those yes questions and the either-or questions, I can't stress that those make up almost everything we talk about. Those are the most important things you can learn in our particular industry about how to work with a buyer. So your homework, I want you to write out 30 yes questions. 30 ways that you'd use a yes question. Comfortable seat, isn't it? Isn't that a comfortable seat? Boy, it sure make those drives a lot more fun, wouldn't it? I want you to write out 30 either-or questions as investigative questions. 30 investigative questions using an either-or. Is car for you or somebody else? You're going to use it for business or pleasure, car or truck, 2-wheel drive or 4-wheel drive. Use an either-or question. Those assumptive statements, write out 15 positive things you can say. Boy, that's great. You're going to love it. This is going to be great on gas mileage. Just 15 positive things you could say to a customer. Write out 15 assumptive closes with an either-or question. Sounds to me like we found a perfect car. How do you want it registered? In your name or her name? You guys are going to love your car. Do you want to match the interior or the exterior with those side moldings? This truck's going to handle all your business needs. You want to put the bumper on today or bring it in on Thursday. Why do I want you to write all these things down? Well, all you've heard is my words. If you read the workbook, you'll hear my words. You've got to change my words to your words. And then you've got to get your words coming out of your mouth. So the first step is to come up with your words. In our 3-day class, this is the first night of our homework. And we send people, I hate to tell you if you're coming to the class, but you got 2 or 3 hours of homework the first night. But you know what we noticed just in 3 days? We role play these things the next morning. We go around the room. The first day, people are not very good at it. As we go through the day, we'll talk about using either-or question. Well, and they'll fumble out something. Do you know by the second day they're better? By the third day, they're really getting pretty good. Because in that classroom environment, in that workshop environment, and you can do the same thing out on the lot in that huddle out there, with a lot of positive support, this is easy to learn. And there, everybody's there to learn. And we get to watch people change in just 3 days. And you can change in 3 days, too, if you're willing to put in that kind of effort. We do spend, give or take, 24, 25 hours sitting in class learning about these things. So write out 15 assumptive closes with an either-or question. Bypassing price, color, equipment, and trades, rates, and payments, and all that. That's one of the most important things you can do so that you can get on to building value. So I want you to write out a complete script to overcome price questions. How much is it? Tell them, 17.3. By the way, who's the lucky one who gets a car, you or Betty? Write out a complete script to overcome to bypass payments, rates, trade values. Write out a complete script to get around color and equipment options. And you need to write it out so that you can practice, drill, and rehearse. As you practice these things, I want you to focus on tone, inflection, body language, and delivery. Timing is critical. So focus on all those things every time you say it. Don't just say the words with meaning. Make the words mean what you want them to mean. You can say the words and they may not do anything for you. I want you to write down 2 ways. Remember those objections on page 31? Those 7 objections that we talk about? I want you to write down 2 ways to rephrase each one of those. I want you to change that into one of those easier to handle objections that we talked about. We don't want to go through with this 7 objections. Even, you know, were you surprised when we talked about only having 7? Spend a career doing this with only 7 objections and we never learned to handle them? Let's cheat. Let's get those 7 down to just 2 or 3 that we can work with. Budget. Sounds like you want to make a good decision. Number 6, write down your 2 favorite closes and your 2 favorite methods to handle the objection, whether it's clarify, isolate, bypass. Also write down your 2 favorite methods to find the objection. What's your favorite method to find an objection? Is it the 2-step? Is it a Ben Franklin? Is it the 5-step? And last, I want you to write down your 2 favorite closes on objections. When you finally get an objection, what was your favorite close? I want you to write those down. Then I want you to make an audio tape. And when you get through writing all these down, you're going to have sheet after sheet of paper. You're going to write down all these scripts. Then I want to get you an audio tape. And I want you to read your scripts into your audio tape. And I want you to practice timing, delivery, tone, and inflection. And I want you to practice, and you'll probably make this audio tape several times. You'll want to. Once you hear it, you play it back and you say, oh, I can do that better. Read these things into the audio tape, and as you read them in, when you read in the sentence, don't read in another sentence real quick. Pause. So that when you read into this tape recorder, it's going to sound like, boy, that seat sure is comfortable, isn't it? And then you want to pause long enough to repeat that when you play your tape back. You want to start repeating it out loud. So, beautiful day, isn't it? Pause. That seat sure is comfortable, isn't it? Pause. Then when you're listening to your tape, every time you come to the pause, you repeat what you just heard. It took me, we were talking at one of the breaks here on these tapes, it took me about a year to learn how to use these yes questions, the either-or questions, the involvement questions, how to use that sharp angle and assumptive questions. The only reason it took me a year is because I didn't do what I just asked you to do. I didn't rewrite the words in my own writing. I read and I listened and I read and I listened to somebody else use these techniques, but I never got them coming out of my mouth. If you'll do this, 30 days from now, you won't believe how easy this comes to you. 30 days from now, this will be a response. You won't have to think about it. When somebody says, boy, that's nice, isn't it though? That seat sure is comfortable. Boy, it'd sure make those long drives a lot more fun, wouldn't it? And that radio's kind of nice, isn't it? They'll just flow. You'll get used to asking questions and supplying all the answers. Practice, drill, and rehearse. You know, in closing, we're in the highest paying profession in the country. I don't know if you realized it. Selling, give or take a profession or two, is the highest paying profession that you could ever get into. We know that doctors can make a lot of money, attorneys can make a lot of money, accountants can make a lot of money. And you know the people who make a lot of money in any profession, selling, doctors, accountants, would it be the ones who spend the time learning how to do the things that are required in a profession? The doctor who makes a lot of money, has he got pretty good skills? The attorney makes a lot of money, he's got pretty good skills? Do you know the average attorney doesn't make any more, give or take a few dollars more than the average salesperson in our business? The average physician, the average family physician, after you take away office expenses and everything else, doesn't make that much money. The average salesperson makes pretty good money. It's the people on top we're trying to become. If you want to get on top as an attorney, as an accountant, as a dentist, then you've got to practice, drill, and rehearse. If you want to be in the top of our profession, you're going to have to practice, drill, and rehearse. Everybody laughs you can get in the selling profession with a pen in your pocket and a couple of business cards. That's true. And you can also earn average wages the rest of your career with that pen in your pocket and a bunch of business cards. Or you can earn professional wages. And the way to do that is practice, drill, and rehearse. You know, Zig Ziglar's got an old saying, it's called see you at the top. You practice, drill, and rehearse, and I'll see you guys there. Have a great career.
Congratulations on your completion of this training program. Did you practice, drill, and rehearse the closing techniques in this series? Did you make your audio tape so you can work on overcoming objections and staying off price on the lot? Did you do your homework with every tape? How did you do with Joe's short quizzes? Class is over now, and it's time to use what you've learned out on the lot with real customers. I would say good luck, but I won't, because you won't need it. Why? Because as Joe says in every class, luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. For more information about our other training products and workshops for dealers, managers, and salespeople, please call us at 1-800-445-6217. We look forward to seeing you in a future class.